little bitty kid.
Okay, so tell me, who were your parents? What were
My
their
parents
names?
was Roselle Cooley and Newbern Cooley.
And Roselle Cooley was a Massey.
She was a Massey.
Okay, and so that's the house y'all lived in when you were just a little thing.
Yeah. And then 4 or 5 years, we moved over to this house here. And it just so happened that each one of those houses were owned by Hazel Cooley and Clay Cooley before we bought them. That house and that house.
Okay, so you bought that from Clay and Hazel Cooley.
And Hazel Cooley.
Or your parents did.
Yeah.
And then they bought that house.
Yeah, they bought this house. They lived there. And then
Clay
they
and
moved to
Hazel.
Hallbrook Avenue
In Bessemer.
in Bessemer, across from where Mother was born and raised on Hallbrook.
So right now we're in the Bessemer city limits, but Lacey's Chapel was not in the Bessemer city limits when you were a little
it
kid.
was not.
Okay.
It was in Jefferson County.
Okay, well tell me tell me about your dad.
My dad was he worked at ore mines in a central shop. He was a machinist. And Mother was just a homemaker. She did not work at that time.
And you had a brother when you were a little
I had
kid.
a brother, Larry.
Was he older or younger?
He was 7 years younger than me.
Okay, so he didn't live with y'all in this house. He was born when y'all were in this house.
He was born on Hallbrook.
Oh, y'all were already living in y'all were living in
We were
Bessemer.
already living in Bessemer. And we moved over here, and we lived here. Used to play in this yard right here. The popsicle man would come by about once a week on a bicycle with a big popsicle thing on it, and I would ride with that black popsicle man who went all the way around. He wanted me to ride with him, keep the dogs from eating him up. The dogs would go after him. He was scared of the dogs, and all the dogs, I knew all the neighborhood dogs all around here.
Did you get a popsicle from him
Yeah,
then?
I'd get a popsicle riding with him. Sure would. That's the reason I rode with him. Sure would. And we moved from here when I was almost 9 years old and moved to Hallbrook.
Now you didn't go to school in Lacey's Chapel though.
No,
You
I did
always went
not.
to school in Bessemer.
Right down there, just past the two churches, where the road is a main road, I would go down there and catch a commercial bus and go. The bus would go right by Arlington School in Bessemer, and I'd pay a dime to go, and I'd catch it and get back on it and ride back out to there and walk back home from that road down there.
Why did you go to the Bessemer school instead of the one house schoolhouse?
Because my mother didn't think I'd get a good enough education at this county school down here. My mother wanted me to have a better education than I would get down here in this 4th grade Lacey Chapel school. Yeah, it was my mother that put me in that school in Arlington, made me go.
Now, so where we are now, that's the house you were living in when you were, before y'all moved out of Lacey's Chapel. Your grandmother's house though was just basically right
here
across
on
the
the
street.
left, yeah.
So tell me about your grandmother.
My grandmother, she was a little tiny woman, real skinny. I bet she didn't weigh 90 pounds.
What was her name?
Oh goodness.
Rosa? Was that Rosa you're talking about? Or
You remember, honey?
Rosa James? Wasn't that Rosa James?
Maybe it was.
Okay, Rosa
I think
James
it was.
Cooley. Let's go with that for now.
My papa, I remember him. His name was Chapel.
Chapel. What did
Yeah.
everybody call him?
Called him Papa.
Well, you called him Papa.
I called him Papa.
I think they called him Chap though, right?
Chap.
That was his
yeah,
nickname.
they did. Yeah.
So,
He was sort of crippled. He was crippled up in the ore mines.
oh, what happened to him?
I don't know. He got his leg hurt some way or another.
He could walk,
He
just
could
not
walk.
well.
Oh yeah, he could walk. Yeah. In fact, when it was real funny, Marcus was 5 or 6 years younger than me, and when my papa died, he come running over to the house and told me, he said, I got me a good pocket knife. Papa had promised him his pocket knife.
That's how you learned your pawpaw had died.
Yeah.
How old were you then?
When Papa died, oh goodness.
You must have been pretty
I
young.
still lived here,
Yeah.
so I had to be below, 8.5. So I was probably 6 or 7.
Did you go over? But then your grandmother, your Granny Cooley, continued to live there.
Oh yeah, she continued. Yeah, she had Marcus at that time. Mother and Daddy lived there with them.
Okay.
Yeah. But Marcus was tickled to death. He said, "Now I got me a good pocket knife." Papa Cooley had promised him a pocket knife. That was funny.
So you live so close
That
to.
tree right there.
Yeah.
I remember getting behind that tree with on a roof and hiding from people because the woods were all around that tree when I grew up.
And Mona Ruth was Marcus's sister, your cousin?
Yeah, Mona Ruth was Marcus's older sister.
Okay.
She was about 3 or 4 years older than me.
So, I guess since you live so close to your grandparents, though, would you go over to your grandmother's a lot?
Yep.
What would
Well,
she?
we could go to both of them.
Yeah, and we'll get to the Massey house, but tell me about your Granny Cooley. What did you do over there?
Oh, she was really, really a fine cook. And she would make biscuits and make that brown gravy with a ham.
Sawmill gravy.
Oh man, my daddy loved that stuff, and I did too. And she was a good cook. That was Rosa Cooley.
Rosa Cooley.
Yeah, Rosa.
Her maiden name was James, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rosa James. She was a James. Yeah.
Okay, anything else about the Cooleys while we're here, and we'll go over to the Masseys.
Yeah. That's about it. Of course, that house wasn't there when I grew up. These houses didn't look that good when I grew up. There used to be a big bank right there.
A bank?
Bigger,
Like a
bigger bank.
Like a hill.
hill, not meaning in front of this house or over there by that
In
house.
front of that house. In fact, Mother, when she learned to drive, she backed out and hit that bank and knocked the tire off the back wheel of the car that she had borrowed to drive, and we didn't have a car. She backed out of there, hit that bank, and knocked the back wheel off the car we had borrowed.
So it was in front of that first house y'all lived in. Okay.
The driveway was there, but the bank is not there anymore, not that high.
Wow.
Anyway, that's about it.
Okay, we'll head over to the Masseys.